So recently my grandparents went to Texas, and while there they went to go see the USS Lexington at Corpus Christi. Being a history and World War II buff, I of course was jealous that they got to go. But I heard a couple days later that my grandfather had bought me this, a model of the USS Lexington. The only problem, this is not the Lexington that they went aboard. This is actually a model of the previous Lexington CV-2, which had a career from 1928 to 1942. The Lexington that's at Corpus Christi is CV-16 Lexington. Originally intended to be named Cabot, the CV-16 Lexington was renamed during construction to commemorate the recently lost Lexington CV-2. I'll explain what happened to the CV-2 Lexington later on. But it doesn't matter, I'm still very grateful about the gift. And so with it, I say let's build this 500 plus piece model of the Lady Lex herself. The 888-foot Lexington was laid down on January 8, 1921 at the Four Rivers Shipbuilding Co. in Quincy, Massachusetts. Lexington received her name after the Battle of Lexington in 1775 during the American Revolutionary War. Originally designed as a battlecruiser, she and her sister ship, the Saratoga, were converted into one of the Navy's first aircraft carriers during the construction to comply with the terms of the Washington Naval Treaty of 1922, which was targeted towards the major allies of World War I to limit their naval construction. She was launched on October 3, 1925, and officially commissioned on December 14, 1927. A year later, she entered service and was assigned to the Pacific Fleet. The ship's turbo-electric propulsion system allowed her to provide electricity to Tacoma, Washington during a drought on December 17, 1929. She then helped deliver supplies to Managua in Nicaragua after a devastating 1931 earthquake. She also played a crucial role in the 2-week search operation to find Amelia Earhart in 1937. Later, the Lexington-class carriers were used to develop and refine carrier tactics in a series of annual exercises before World War II. On more than one occasion, these included successfully staged surprise attacks on Pearl Harbor. At the time of the actual surprise attack made by Japan on December 7, 1941, the Lexington was at sea ferrying a squadron of Vought SB-2U dive bombers to Midway Island. Her mission was cancelled and she was ordered to look for Japanese carriers south of Oahu. On December 14th, she joined Task Force 11. The fleet consisted of 3 heavy carriers, 9 destroyers, and 1 oiler tank. One of the 3 heavy cruisers was the USS Indianapolis, which has a very unique and terrifying story of her sinking. The mission of Task Force 11 was to divert the Japanese forces en route to the besieged Wake Island by creating a diversion in the Marshall Islands, but that mission would be cancelled on the 20th and the Japanese had taken the Wake Islands. After that, she was put up on a series of patrols for the time being, actively seeking out the enemy fleet. On March 6, 1942, she met up with Task Force 17 and the much newer USS Yorktown before returning to Pearl Harbor for an armament refitting. Original 8-inch guns and 4 of her 5-inch guns were replaced with 6 28mm quadruple and 30 20mm Oerlikon single-mount anti-aircraft cannons. Eventually, the Japanese opened Operation Mo, a plan to take control of the Australian territory of New Guinea and other locations in the South Pacific. They started by occupying Tulagi on May 3, 1942. On the 8th, American reconnaissance aircraft reported 2 Japanese heavy cruisers northeast of Misama Island. An hour later, the Lexington and Yorktown launched an attack. Meanwhile, a Japanese raid of 69 aircraft was detected by Lexington's radars. A coordinated strike from the Japanese torpedo and bombing squadrons ultimately proved tactically superior to the Americans, and a vast majority of their aircraft concentrated on Lexington. The Lexington dodged attacks for a while, but was eventually hit on its port side by 2 torpedoes. 2 divers also scored hits against the vessel, but caused minor damage. Shortly afterward, the Lexington was attacked by 19 Japanese bombers. One was shot down by fighters before it could drop its bomb, and another was shot down by the carrier. She was hit by 2 bombs. the first of which detonated in the port forward 5-inch ready ammunition locker, killing the entire crew of the one 5-inch gun, and starting several fires, and the second hit the funnel. Lexington kept on receiving and sending aircraft when then, an explosion triggered by sparks ignited gasoline vapors from the cracked port tanks. The explosion killed 25 crewmen and knocked out the main damage control station. Another blast 2 hours later wrecked the water pressure and steering control systems. A series of explosions in the following hours would finally put a blow on the historic carrier. At 5:07 p.m., Captain Frederick Sherman ordered abandoned ship. Around 2,735 surviving crew members were evacuated. Some 216 crewmen were killed, but no wounded or surviving man was left behind. The destroyer Phelps was ordered to scuttle the ship and fired a total of 5 torpedoes. Ultimately, after the last torpedo hit, the Lady Lex finally slipped beneath the waves at 8 p.m. In June 1942, shortly after the Navy's public acknowledgement of the sinking, workers at the Quincy shipyard, where the ship was built 21 years earlier, cabled Navy Secretary Frank Knox and proposed a change in the name of one of their new Essex-class fleet carriers, currently under construction. Knox agreed to the proposal and the carrier was renamed on June 16, 1942, originally named Cabot and now named the Lexington, becoming the CV-16 Lexington, which is now a museum ship in Corpus Christi. 76 years after her sinking, the CV-2 Lexington was finally discovered by philanthropist Paul Allen on March 4, 2018. It lies at a depth of 9,800 feet, at a distance of more than 500 miles east off the coast of Queensland, Australia. I am not even kidding when I say that this is possibly the hardest video I have ever had to do. Building this model took about probably 6 days, and most of my fingers have been now chapped because of the extreme super glue. Now I know I sounded harsh when I said that this is probably the most hardest video I've ever had to do, but it's for a good reason. This is actually a really detailed model, and the time it took is really well worth it. Now the only question is, where am I going to put it? I mean, I could put it next to my 2 models of the SS Normandy and the Forrest Gump Jenny boat, but what do I know? I'm just a piece of toast on the internet.